Jah Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Axel jam si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
If you were following the trial of Michael Sankoria in the USA, a common refrain his lawyers fell back on was that he had no choice but to torture. For those of us who had the opportunity to confront Yahya Jammeh's enablers, this is a very common excuse you hear from them. And by enablers, I am referring to the legal junglers, financial, medical, parliamentary, security, public civil service junglers. The torture, murder, and rape of Gambians in the hands of the military junglers were not isolated incidents. They were part of a broader APRC government abusive machinery that required the participation of other junglers outside of the security services. If the military junglers are the main attraction, the other junglers are the sideshow. Sadly, in the Gambia, our focus is on the military junglers, and the civilian junglers are given a pass, with many confidently going back to their support of abuse. And if you talk to most of these civilian junglers, a common theme among them is the excuse that they didn't have a choice, just as Michael Correa is saying today. I mean, I know greed can motivate people to come back and swallow all that they had vomited before, but that level of spinelessness is still a choice. Choice is defined as, quote, an act of selecting or making a decision when faced with two or more possibilities, end quote. In other words, you have two or more options and you choose one. The option you choose is your choice. The difficulty or risk associated with one of the options does not mean it stops being a choice. It may be difficult, but it is still a choice. It may be the mythical Scylla and Charybdis situation, but you still have a choice. Seldom is it ever a do this or die situation. Often, when you hear people lament, I didn't have a choice, you would think there is only one option, but that is hardly ever the case. On the surface, it may seem like this person does not have a choice, but if you look a bit closer, you will realize that, in fact, they had a choice. They chose what they did. We all have options to choose between right and wrong. But even if choosing the wrong is much easier for us in a given situation, if we allow ourselves to continue being in that situation where choosing wrong over right continues, then we cannot continue to claim we had no choice. I get it that sometimes choosing the wrong option is much easier on us, and so we succumb to wrongdoing. Sometimes going with the flow is much easier because it saves our hide. And sometimes it is easier to acquiesce to wrongdoing because of self-preservation, especially if it means holding onto a political appointment. But it is almost a blasphemy to do wrong and then turn around and claim I didn't have a choice when you continue to do wrong in a given situation. Again, one of the options on the table may be extremely difficult and could lead to very difficult outcomes, but it is still an option and one still has a choice to pick it or not. Unless your life is on the line where you must choose between life or the certainty of death, you must never succumb to fear and call such capitulation, I didn't have a choice. But if you capitulate once and allow wrongdoing in order to save your hide, that excuse rings hollow if you continue to stay in that same situation, chaperoning wrongdoing and still claiming I didn't have a choice. Like many Gambians who enabled Jammeh's brutality, Sang had a choice to walk away, but he was making money and enjoying his status as a jungler, just like the many ministers and senior government officials were doing under Jammeh. They all had a choice to say no, but enjoying the status quo was what interested them more. What happened is that in our enjoyment, when political times are in our favor, many of us forget that power is transient. We forget that nothing lasts forever. And as the world gets smaller, if you participate in the abuse of people, there aren't many comfortable places to hide anymore. Ask Yaya Jammeh.
Axila jam si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello? Ano lay waxal?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. Ak Wave. Bisul mu fine. Wave. Your money is yours.
Jah Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.